So for today, I want to report a total of 538 new cases of COVID-19 in British Columbia, including 9 epidemiologically linked cases, bringing our total to 24,960 people in British Columbia with COVID-19. The new cases by Health Authority, 178 are in the Vancouver Coastal Health Region, 309 people are in the Fraser Health Region, 12 people reside in the Vancouver Island Health Region, 28 people in the Interior Health Region, and 11 people are from the Northern Health Region. We now have 6,929 active cases of COVID-19 in the province in all of our health authorities. Of whom 217 are in hospital, 59 of whom are in critical care or ICU. We have had, sadly, one additional death in the last 24 hours, bringing the number of people in British Columbia who've died from COVID-19 to 321. As always, we send our deep condolences to the family, to the care providers of this person, one of our seniors who we've lost from long-term care. We now have 9,929 people under active public health monitoring across the province and 17,207 people who have recovered from COVID-19. We have 6 new healthcare outbreaks to report and no new ones that have been declared over, bringing our total to 59 active outbreaks in our healthcare system, 41 in long-term care or assisted living, and 40 in long-term care and assisted living, and 19 in acute care. We also have an additional outbreak in a community to report, and this is at the Fleur BC LNG joint venture, a contracted site of the LNG Canada plant and project in Kitimat, where we have a number of workers at that site who have tested positive for COVID-19, and the investigation with Northern Health and the owners and contractor of that facility are ongoing. So today, as is no surprise to anybody, we are in our second surge, and it is proving to be a challenge. While we all hoped that we would not experience a second wave based on what has been happening around the world, around this country, and around our province, we anticipated that this may occur. We knew that every pandemic that we've ever had has had more than one wave. And this has been proving to us and to people around the globe that this is a challenging virus to deal with. Despite where we may be today, I remain confident, and I know we will get through this. But we need to take more action now. COVID-19 is a virus that is proving to be a long road, this pandemic, and this is the road that we must travel. It will have bumps and will have challenges, and we are facing them today. As we know, we have seen a significant rise in new cases, hospitalizations, and tragically, deaths. 4 weeks ago, we had about 175 cases a day, and I was anxious then. Yesterday, we had over 700 people in our province affected, and we know that our hospitals are getting stretched. Our ICU capacity is getting stretched. Our communities are suffering. We also know that as more people are infected, the risk of somebody younger and others becoming having severe illness or dying are greater. And tragically, this past week, we had a young person in his 30s who died from COVID-19. This is a reminder to all of us that this virus can have tragic effects on the people we are closest to and the people we love. We also have over 50 active outbreaks in our healthcare system. We have seen that transmission has happened sometimes in social events in our communities, and it's spilled over into our long-term care homes and our hospitals. This increase has been most acute, as we know, in the Vancouver Coastal and Fraser Health regions of the province, and that is why I put in regional orders about 10 days ago. However, As we've been watching so carefully over the last few weeks, it has become apparent that this surge in transmission is happening across the province. We are now seeing increased activity in terms of community transmission, outbreaks, and effects on our healthcare system in every health authority in the province. So now we need to do more. We need to keep our essential service, our essential activities open and operating safely. We need to keep our schools open and operating safely, and our workplaces that can be open safely open. And we need to relieve the stress on our healthcare system right now. Right now, we are holding our own, but we know that if people cannot access healthcare, that it is not only people with COVID-19, but people with other urgent health issues that will suffer. And we need to do this across the province. As a result, I am extending the regional orders that currently apply to the Fraser and Vancouver Health Region across the entire province, and I'm putting new province-wide orders in place. These expanded orders will come into effect today and run until for starting with a 2-week period. That's the period of the incubation period. And we will be extending the orders from November 23rd so that the orders across the province will be in place until December 7th at midnight. We want to ensure we get through 1 to 2 incubation periods, and we will be reviewing our progress regularly as we move through this next 2 weeks. We want to see a clear and notable difference and slowing of transmission in our province, across the province, so that we can get back into that balance, that control that we had with public health. So what does this mean? This means that the orders with regards to our social gatherings apply to the entire province. Right now, we at home need to only socialize with our immediate households. We need to delay inviting over friends and family for this period of time and reduce our social interactions as much as possible outside of our homes. As a result, I'm ordering that there'll be no social gatherings of any size with anyone other than your immediate household. This applies in our homes, vacation rentals, and in the community, and in public venues, including those with less than 50 people in controlled settings. Your immediate household can, of course, include roommates, and if you live on your own, you can visit with up to 1 or 2 people if you regularly spend time with them. We need to go back to what we were doing in April and May and March when we had our pandemic bubble. And so if you are somebody who lives alone, that's that 1 or 2 people that you have a close relationship with. All indoor and outdoor events as defined in my gathering and events order are not allowed to take place until further notice. So that goes back, and that's a bit of a technical language. The mass gathering and events order is on the website, and it refers to the restrictions and limits. The maximum number of people we could have in an event was 50, and these events could take place in many different places. Those are now suspended across the province for the next 2 weeks. While places of worship are to have no in-person groups services for this period of time, and I've had the privilege of meeting with a large number of faith leaders from around the province, and this is important, and they understand that we need our faith services more than ever right now, but we need to do them in a way that's safe. And with the community transmission that we're seeing, and the fact that we have seen transmission in some of our faith-based settings, we need to suspend those and support each other and find those ways to care for each other remotely. The exceptions will be those important events, funerals and weddings and ceremonies such as baptisms, which may proceed in a limited way with a maximum of 10 people, including the officiant. There are to be no associated receptions inside or outside your home or at any public or community-based venue associated with these important celebrations. The exceptions do include other activities that happen with COVID safety plans in in these gathering sites, including medical group sessions, sessions like NA and AA meetings with a maximum of 50 people, less if the space is smaller, and ensuring that you have COVID-19 safety plans that are in place and are being acted upon. It also does not apply to those very important work functions that we have. What we are talking about is reducing our social activities, both in our home and outside our home and around our work periods. So if I work in the social services and I need to check on families, this does not apply to that situation. As well, if we have people who are doing work in our house, people who are our grandparents are coming to pick up children, those are not social gatherings. Those are essential functions that happen in and out of our home. And so those are not affected by this order. I have for many, many weeks made clear the importance of wearing masks, particularly now, as one of the measures that we have that can prevent transmission, along with those important things that we know work, like physical distancing, cleaning our hands, and staying away from others when we're not feeling well. But based on continued requests, particularly from the retail and other public sectors, to have more explicit direction for the use of masks in indoor, public, and retail spaces, I've asked the Minister of Public Safety and the Solicitor General to issue a requirement for the wearing of masks for all indoor public and retail spaces for staff and customers, except where eating or drinking. This means if you are at work at your desk, you do not need to wear a mask. But if you are in a shared workspace, a common space, or a public space like elevators, hallways, and other common areas, you do. If you are behind service counters and you have plexiglass between you and everyone else, you do not need to wear a mask unless there are others back there with you. If you are serving customers, you do need to wear a mask. If you are in a restaurant, you need to wear a mask when you are not at your table. That includes coming into the restaurant, leaving the restaurant, going to the washroom. And staff must wear masks when they're interacting with others and with other staff and with the tables. Again, this does not apply to anyone who is unable to put on or remove the mask on their own. We know that there are people with certain conditions and disabilities in some ways that would make mask wearing challenging. It does not apply to children under the age of 2. And we need to be aware that some people's disabilities or inability to wear a mask may not be readily apparent to people. This will mean, technically, this will mean mandatory wearing of masks in all indoor public and retail spaces, not only as a workplace health and safety issue, as one of the mandates that we have had, but also to ensure that owners and operators of these spaces have the support behind them to ensure that customers are aware of this mandate as well. The use of the Emergency Act to do this will enable us to cover that overlap of workplace and public safety around this issue. As I announced last week, we need to understand and better manage and control indoor group physical activities where we have seen transmission happen. We've seen notable levels of transmission, and there are some particular activities that are higher risk. I have tasked a group to look at this issue over the past 10 days. And as of today, I am ordering that all businesses, recreation centers, or other organizations that organize or operate indoor group physical activities that include spin classes, hot yoga, and high-intensity interval training must stop until further notice. All other group fitness activities indoors can continue to operate, but they must adhere to the updated guidance that we are developing. So this is a change from what we put in place last week for the Lower Mainland. It gave us an opportunity to, once we recognized that there was transmission happening in some of these settings, we took the opportunity to stop those, to put a pause so we could understand the conditions that made these more risky in some situations and others. So what we have determined that it is a combination, and this is what we're learning over time. It's those closed environments where we have people close together, where we're exerting and when we have poorer ventilation and when there's often loud music, those are the settings that are most at risk. And we are seeing around the world that those are challenging settings, and they invite this virus to spread. And we know that at this time of year, when we know the virus is spreading faster in the climate that we have right now, and the higher rates in our community, that these high-risk activities cannot happen for the foreseeable future. So that is the focus that we are looking at right now. We had included other indoor group fitness activities like dance, like some of the other lower intensity fitness classes. And we will be updating the guidance on how those can operate safely, including additional space, reduced numbers, making sure that people have book ahead, for example, and have the same class with the same people at the same time. So there's a number of new guidelines that are being finalized and will be posted. Last week, I made the requirement that people had to adhere to the updated guidance and had to have their new plans approved by their local MHO before they could restart these activities. That is no longer the case. We have narrowed down those activities that we feel are too high risk to happen right now, and those will be suspended. All other indoor group activities must, as we've had in the past, must update their COVID safety plans to adhere to the new guidelines and have those publicly posted. And they are, however, placed on our watch list, and we will be watching carefully because we know even some of these lower risk activities, if they're not, these plans are not followed intensely, that we can have transmission, and we will be monitoring this, and we will be shutting down gyms or studios where these safety plans are not being followed. There were, I understand, a small number of these facilities that may have included some of these high-risk activities that had received a notice from Vancouver Coastal Health. That notice will be rescinded. If you have any of these high-risk activities, so spin classes, hot yoga, high-intensity interval training, those are not approved right now. For all sports, the other issue that we talked about 10 days ago was about reducing contact sports indoors, and we have looked again at the measures and the risks that are associated with ongoing sporting activities. We also recognize how important it is, particularly for youth, but for adults as well, to have the opportunities to engage in these sporting activities in a safe way during this pandemic. So what we have done now is that we will continue with Via Sport Phase 3 activities with the exceptions. There are to be no spectators at indoor or outdoor sports, and there will be no travel for any of these sports outside of your local community. So that is the restrictions that we need to have in place now across the province to ensure that we can have these important sport activities continue, but in a safe way during this pandemic. I've seen the incredible effort that so many businesses and organizations have put into retooling, adjusting their businesses to make sure they can stay open and do it safely. The vast majority of businesses around the province are doing a great job. We only have to look at things like hair salons and spas and retail stores to show that when rules are followed and when safety measures are in place, we're not seeing transmission of this virus. And we see that as well in restaurants, where we are following the conditions that we've put in place that we don't see transmission. Right now, we are asking all office-based employers to temporarily suspend those important efforts to safely get workers back into their workplaces and to support working at home where possible until at least the new year. For anyone going to work, it is important that we minimize all of those social interactions with our colleagues before, during, and after work. Those are the things where we are seeing transmission in communities, in workplaces around the province. And it is many different types of workplaces. So many of them are essential workplaces. We have seen it recently in food production plants, in retail outlets, where staff are gathering together. We've seen it in every setting, from banks to car dealerships to other settings, where it is staff who are getting together, and we don't remember that we have to take precautions with each other, that we have our own social networks, our social connections, and we can inadvertently bring that virus in and spread it within our work setting as well. I also want to make, I recognize we talked about this for the Lower Mainland, but across the province, active inspections will be increased in all business settings to ensure that we have those important COVID safety plans and that workers and the public are protected in all settings around the province. I want to make a particular note about bars in particular and pubs. And as you know, there's some challenges with the way the liquor licenses are run. Those are settings where we have concerns that safety plans may not be followed and people may be mixing in a way that can be risky. We will be paying particular effort to inspecting COVID safety plans, to making sure that they are being adhered to in these settings. And if we have challenges, if we find that they are not being adhered to, these businesses will be closed down. And specifically in the Vancouver Coastal and Fraser Health region, where we have seen a lot of transmission in the recent weeks related to spillover into workplaces, we have established, I've asked one of my deputy provincial health officers to work with the environmental health officers from both Fraser Health and Vancouver Coastal Health to establish a rapid response team to focus on those workplace issues, to liaise with the inspectors from WorkSafe BC, but also to find and target the clusters and outbreaks that we're seeing and manage them rapidly. And part of that, again, will be shutting down businesses where the safety plans are not adequate. So this is the time for everybody to pay attention, to make sure that you revisit and step up your safety efforts to ensure these protocols are fully implemented. I know many people did an excellent job very early on, but we have seen slippage. This means that all businesses and work sites across the province must conduct active daily health screening. It can be done through an app, online, or when people arrive at the site. And businesses need to ensure that all workers and customers maintain that appropriate physical distancing, maintain all of the safety measures that are in place, and wear masks when needed. I also want to talk about travel. We talked about this 10 days ago, and I am not putting a travel order in place. However, as the Premier mentioned yesterday, it is our expectation that everybody in BC right now will limit their travel as much as possible unless it is essential. So it is limiting our recreational and travel for social reasons that we're talking about. This includes travel within the province and travel to other parts of Canada. I'm asking people again, we need to step back. We need to stay local. Stay within your community as much as possible. Of course, if you need to travel for work, for a medical appointment, for reasons that are essential, that does not apply. I absolutely recognize that tourism is important to our communities, to our economy, and the significant efforts that many of our tourist businesses have put in place for safety plans for themselves and for their guests and staff. The challenge that we are facing is that we have seen a significant increase in transmission across many jurisdictions across this country. And we only need to wish we had the same small numbers of people coming here as the Atlantic bubble, but that's not to be for us. The challenge we are facing, though, is people are coming to BC from these other jurisdictions as well. And we know for international travel, there is appropriate mechanisms in place for quarantine. That is not in place for travel interprovincially. So we are asking people who are coming to BC in the next 2 to 4 weeks, if they can postpone their trip here, they should. If not, then we need to be sure that they will minimize, they need to be aware that the expectation is that they will follow the orders that we have in place here, and these orders are enforceable. So that will be minimizing your social interactions with others, making sure you follow all of the orders and guidelines we have in place here. For students who may be returning home, keep to your household only when you come back. And that it applies to people who are returning to be with their families right now. As previously noted, any travel within the region even is suspended for sports for everyone right now. What does this mean? It means, yes, you can move about within your region. If you live in Penticton, you can go to Summerland. If you live in Victoria, though, and you want to go to Tofino, not such a good idea right now. If you need to go to a store in another community, then plan ahead and go as infrequently as possible for this next short period of time. If you are thinking about skiing, go to a local mountain. And if you are in doubt, postpone it. Postpone it to a time when we have better management of the transmission that we're seeing in our communities right now. The focus about this is making sure that we can keep our communities functioning. We can keep our businesses that are working safely open. We can keep the pressure off our hospitals, our ICUs, our long-term care homes. We can protect those people who are our elders and our seniors and people in need of healthcare. As well, it's important for us to keep schools open. We know that schools are an important, safe place for children around this province. Many of the additional efforts announced today are to focus on those priorities, including our schools. As I noted last week, transmission in schools has been low, but we have had many, many more exposure events from the adults and the students in our school settings. I'm also hearing that this is concerning. This is concerning to our parents, to teachers, to all of us in the school community. And we need to make sure that we can keep up with and make sure everybody is informed as best as possible.